So the battle begins with Macedonian soldiers running up a hill. It's only just a few of them, like 3 or 5 Macedonian soldiers. And on the other side of the hill, you have Roman soldiers running up to that same hill. This is the start of the battle of Cynoscephalae. And it is a very interesting start because the both sides end up clashing. They end up fighting each other there up on top of the hill. It's a bloody fight there on top of the hill. Flamininus, which is the Roman general of this battle, receives the news from one of his messengers that there has been fighting on top of the hill. And the way that Flamininus reacts to this news is that he sends out his Aetolian cavalry and other Roman soldiers to go and fight for the hill, because it is a very strategic, important position in this battle. The Aetolian cavalry and Roman light infantry are now storming up the hill, to try to defend and help out their Roman allies. So, this is what's happening. King Philip V of Macedon is now having to respond to the Romans' move. King Philip decides to send in his Thessalian cavalry and also mercenary soldiers to fight the Romans on top of the hill. The Thessalian cavalry and the Greek mercenaries sent out by King Philip have now started charging up the hill to meet the Romans in battle. But on top of the hill, the Macedonian soldiers have gotten the better of the Roman soldiers and have driven the Roman soldiers down. But then the Romans send in the elite Aetolian cavalry to push the Greeks back up the hill. So now the Romans are the ones pushing up the hill, pushing the Greeks back, fighting to take back their hill. It was an intense cavalry charge that happened between the Roman Aetolian cavalry and the Macedonian Thessalian cavalry, but it is in fact the Macedonian cavalry who are able to push the Roman cavalry down the hill in a great war effort from the Macedonians, pushing the Romans almost all the way back into the Roman main army. Now King Philip of Macedon has now sent out his elite phalanx units to go and take the hill and make sure that they can hold it and defeat the Roman army. The phalanx is a very, very extremely good military weapon that Macedon has. It is a bunch of soldiers together with long spears. It is a very deadly combination that has won Macedon a lot of wars over the years. King Philip of Macedon was first reluctant to send in his elite phalanx unit to walk up the hill, because phalanx are usually best on flat ground. But King Philip was emboldened by the fact that his Macedonian soldiers had won the battle on top of the ridge. Therefore he felt he had to press the advantage. Therefore he sent his phalanx to walk up the hill. Word reached Flamininus that the Macedonian assault had begun. Therefore Flamininus sends out his Roman legionnaires to help the Romans on the ridge. The Roman legionnaires were extremely effective and heavy infantry, very well trained. So they were able to push back the Macedonian infantry and push them back up the hill. This was Rome's finest soldiers. As King Philip got up the hill, he saw the Roman general Flamininus. King Philip and his army attacks the Romans straight away. They rushed down the hill and attacked the Romans with full power. The Macedonian phalanx was now showing how amazing it is, because all of those spears were now killing down a lot of the Roman soldiers, Many Roman soldiers are now dead on the ground. The Romans are being pushed down by the power and precision of the Roman phalanx. It was a complete disaster for the Romans as they were being pushed down from the hill by King Philip and his Macedonian phalanx army. Flamininus could now see that his Roman soldiers were losing the fight. It was devastating for him. This was a true devastation to see all of his soldiers being cut down in front of him, being pushed back by the Macedonian phalanx. Flamininus now realizes that this is the decisive point of the battle, and that it's now or never for him. So therefore he now puts forward his war elephants. The war elephants are now leading in the front, on the right-hand side of the battle, where there is an open gap, where there is no Macedonians. The elephants are charging forward. The Roman legions are walking behind the elephants. And Flamininus is there, leading the legions. This will be the decisive point of the battle. Either the Romans will fail, or they will defeat the Macedonians. The Macedonian phalanx were not in formation, they were not prepared, and the Roman elephants charged straight into the phalanx, completely crushing them, absolutely just sending Macedonian soldiers flying everywhere, crushing them to death. The Macedonians take huge casualties, and the morale of that Macedonian phalanx unit is completely destroyed. The elephants completely destroy the Macedonian phalanx. The entire right side of the Macedonian army is now routed. They now flee the field. They flee from the Roman elephants and the Roman legionnaires who are pursuing them, cutting them down. It is complete and utter disaster for the Macedonian army. It is at this moment that a Roman commander, one of those who were actively charging after the Macedonians that were fleeing, have now started to realize that they should turn around. So a part of those Roman legionaries that were attacking the Macedonians that were fleeing have now started to turn around, and now they will be attacking the rear end of the Macedonian army. That means that they will be attacking the Macedonians from behind, which will be a complete disaster for the Macedonian army. The Roman legionaries attacked the Macedonians with a ferocious speed and power, cutting down many Macedonians, completely destroying what was left of the morale of the Macedonian army. It was a complete and utter disaster. The Macedonians surrender because of that fatal final attack from the Roman legions, and the Macedonian army surrenders to all the pressure. And the army surrenders and they start fleeing in all directions. King Philip of Macedon flees the battlefield with what is left of his army. He retreats hurriedly, taking with him everyone that can join him and get away from the Romans who are cutting down all of the Macedonian soldiers. It was a great win for Rome. The Romans lost only 700 soldiers, while the Macedonians lost 8,000 soldiers. This was a disaster for Macedon. King Philip managed to escape, but the defeat put him in a humiliating position. Rome had a commanding position in the peace negotiations. King Philip was allowed to keep his kingdom, but he had to give up all other possessions in Greece and Asia, pay 1,000 silver talents to Rome, and send his son to Rome as a hostage.